I think most people are not there yet. We fail to be able to explain the outcomes of AI currently in most cases.
So it's a very good transition to the next point. Today is a great day because we are clearly 30 years after the birth of 3W by Tim Berners-Lee. He provided to all the ecosystems a call to action. We spoke about data governance. What about the software side, the AI, the machine learning, the engine, in fact? How to make the governance not only the ethics aspect, but also all the mechanisms to be safer, to be resilient, to avoid such kind of crisis in this field, because data and machine learning are deeply are very close.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you hear Tim Berners-Lee, he presents the web as even him presents it as kind of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So there's the good way, half of the humanity is connected now. That's incredible. But on the other side, he's disappointed by the way that people lost control of their data, especially Tim Berners-Lee points out to personal data. But the idea is that people lost control of the data and maybe of the algorithm. So we were kind of, this year, we were kind of struck that data could influence elections or something like that. So we saw how powerful it is. And so we know now that we have to establish the whistleblowers. We need to establish the transparency. And this transparency needs to be on data. So data fuels the algorithms. So you need to know where did that data come from, if it's in control. And then you need to control the algorithm, track and trace what is happening so that you can bring transparency on top of that.
How can we, about the transparency of the black box, the algorithms, how could we be more, how can we implement more transparency in this? Because there is a touchy thing, there is innovation, we have to protect, if you are a corporation, you have to protect it, it's your add value, you don't want to be too much transparent also.
Yeah, but I think if it's data, you know, there's a famous statistician that say, I believe in God, the other bring data. But what if the data is not in control? That's the same. So if data can be leaked or can be biased or intentionally or not, then the value of the whole thing, the value of IA, etc., it disappears. So this is crucial that we are able to bring that kind of transparency, and we hear that more and more. So an example is in France, the Parcoursup, which decide or orients the students to the right school. It was a lot challenged because of the algorithm, and it was, in that case, it was pretty open. So the researcher could explain the algorithm, but still people are challenging that, and everything that we see in an area of the new thing, like the application, for example, for your food, when you tag the barcode and it gives you a trust index. When you publish that application, people want to know how do you calculate the trust index. So you will have to be more and more transparent on the algorithm. And this is a big cultural change, I think, for data scientists.
How could we make it? Because we spoke in many cases for retail application, for consumer goods and so, but you mentioned something which is more in institutions application. You mentioned also some kind of social network who could influence new decision, new leadership. It's a matter of local or geopolitics aspect. How can we deal with this? Because there is a complete asymmetry between civil society, NGOs in some cases, institutions leadership, industrial leaderships, investors. How can we deal with this?
Yeah, so this is a power play, I would say. What is interesting is that in some industries, the power play is going back to the consumer. I just mentioned, I really like what is happening on food. So, you know, the big food companies, they make beautiful packaging and things like that. But now the consumer wants to know what's in the products. And they are bringing some applications, third-party application, crowdsourced database to know what's in it. And when they do that, companies from the food industry are losing control because the customer experience goes somewhere else. And so now they are trying to get back into those applications so that the data in it is trusted so that they can have more control. So I think it's a balance. We will see who wins. So in some cases, the balance goes to the big companies and things like that. In some cases, like I think in the food industry, the balance is going back to the customer. Yeah. But it's a power play. I think that the more you have issue with the transparency, the more you'll have ability to deliver digital transformation. A good example in France is Linky, you know, the automatic mirror that is challenged. So people are closing their doors to the guy that put this smart mirror because they don't trust the intention that is behind. They don't believe that this smart mirror will benefit to them.
It implies 10 million people who are concerned directly by the implementation of this device. So there is some kind of actors or players who have not the same level, the same position to transform and the coroller have the same responsibility. By the way, what about talent? Well, how do you deal with and how do you support the ecosystem in this way?
So basically what Talent does is that we manage data pipelines. So we capture the data that flows and we try to understand what's in it. And so so that helps you to do data integration, to accelerate speed of the movement of the data and to put it in the right hands. But we see more and more a new dimension, which is the governance side, which is okay. If I have the wires for the data, then I need to help customer to be accountable of what's in a wire. So I need to put sensors into the wire to know if the data is correct, what is the data, to have whistleblowers if, for example, data is leaking somewhere. So that's the kind of things. And so we are in a wire, but we see that governance thing becoming big because as we are in a wire, we can see the actual data that is flowing in the enterprise.
How do you manage the trust? Because trust is everywhere. In fact, when you are going to engage with a potential client, how do you manage this aspect? Because they're going to provide you very key asset of their business. How do you manage this aspect? How do you create the confidence, the trust with them?
Well, see us as a supplier, so that means that we provide the building blocks, but we don't really store data. We don't provide the algorithm. We provide a way to wire. So customers are using it to establish trust or not. They can choose both, you know. But more and more we see customers that are interested to have the ways to build trust as part of their infrastructure. So this is a lot of the organization, and that's why governance is hard, because one part is organization, processes, but one part is technology, because we are not talking about principles, we are talking about the actual data. And we are talking, like I mentioned, the GDPR example, the data of a customer that he wants to see when he sends you a request, and he wants to see as soon as possible, and he wants some transparency from you. So transparency means you need to show him exactly what is going on with his data.
Thank you very much, Jean-Michel, and we are very pleased to know that all the tools and methods are as much as important as the tech side. And thank you again for this sharing insight, and see you next.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.